let's 5 o'clock already. So let's get online and let's see whether they have any questions. So in general today, we are going to talk about a very interesting sector, right?
Insurance.
Yes, that's right. And okay, so all ready to go? I'll put us
Yeah.
online. Okay, let me just check. Uh, and you sorry you're saying about Charlie Munger, and he was talking about valuation.
Yeah.
And right now you're saying that the valuation is on the high side.
I think they are. I mean, they're going up and down now because the market is very uncertain with everything that's going on. I mean, the fact of the matter is Trump does play a part of it. International trade relations play a part in it. Things are going to be more expensive because because of his bad trade deals that he's making in the U.S. So those things can affect it, but they won't affect it forever. It's it really 2008 was the worst last recession we've had.
Right.
I don't think it's ever going to get back there again. We have almost no unemployment rate now, 3%. So that's a good thing.
Right.
The only thing we have to do, of course, is make the Equal Rights Amendment for women to get paid the same as men.
Okay. So now the whole idea is today we're going to talk about a specific industry, and you were mentioning that this particular industry is an industry that the Buffetts love a lot, and we are talking about the insurance industry.
Right.
But
Right.
Mary, can you give us an overview of why is it that Warren and yourself, you guys love the insurance industry so much?
Well, first of all, Warren really, from an early age, from learning from Benjamin Graham, who ran Geico, which was the insurance company that Warren first bought. It was the Government Employees Insurance Company. That's what Geico stands for.
Right.
And the thing that really Warren discovered was that the insurance was like any other business, but if it's a business that's run well, it will turn a great profit. And if it's run really well, it will accrue the float. In other words, the money that they're not having to pay out for claims, and they can invest it. So when you have great management and great investments, and you have that money that you're operating under those favorable regulations, you can use the float as an investment.
I see. I see.
Not just as a profit, right?
I think what you always mention is because it is a very smart way to leverage. I think Warren and yourself, the idea of having more money, more float to invest is something that's excellent because as investors we know how to grow our money, and a lot of mistakes that a lot of I would say beginners investors make because they want to grow their money fast, they end up borrowing money from let's say the banks or from even their relatives. And when you borrow money, that's very dangerous. Whereas in this case, like you mentioned, when we buy into insurance company, we get a float, and the float allows Warren to actually invest. That was the
Right.
idea.
Right. It has a profit.
Right.
And if it's run very well, it also can accrue that float, and that you can invest at your will. So those are the unique qualities of the current form of the insurance industry. So it creates a unique exponential quality for Warren's or anyone's investment. It's
Right.
like discovering the secret ingredient, that make all your dreams come true.
Right. It's like a non-fattening ice cream, correct? Like like you can eat the ice cream whole day and you don't get fat. So same thing for insurance. You can get the float to invest and yet you do not incur interest. You do not incur all the risk of getting debt. And I understand that Geico was the first love of Warren. And I heard that he went all the way to Geico to find the information about Geico when he first started investing.
Yes, when he realized that he was investing at a very early age, but when he realized that Benjamin Graham his interest was insurance and was in Geico, Warren literally went to the library at Columbia and he learned all about what Geico stood for. And he took a train into New York City, to DC, to go to the Geico offices. And he was pounding on the doors. It was a Saturday. And really, the one guy came over to the door and he asked him, he said he thought there was somebody working on the 6th floor. And the guy that was working on the 6th floor happened to be a guy named Lorimer Davidson. He was Geico's vice president. Lorimer Davidson.
Right.
He was his vice president and later became the chief investment officer and the CEO of the company. And Davidson talked with Warren for hours about what Geico was, and it was not your average insurance company. It possessed a distinct competitive advantage, and it provided a unique service. So the competitive advantage at that time, back in those days in 51, that Geico had was it didn't use any agents or brokers or advertise to sell the insurance, but it did basically direct mail and information through the post office, and it was significantly cheaper than trying to sell it other ways. And it sold it to government employees who were statistically proven to be more responsible and therefore lower risk policyholders.
Is that still true now? Like if you are working for Donald Trump, are you like more responsible and more like low risk? Like
I think if you're working for Donald Trump, you just want to stay out of jail. Everybody's going to jail that's been working for Donald Trump.
That's right. Because Geico, they were targeting the government employee. So Geico stands for Government Employee Insurance Company, and it was an interesting way to actually, I would say, brand your insurance company. And by the way, now we have quite a number of our students online. If you're online right now, can you please type which country you're from and also one insurance company that you know of and you heard of, because you will want to start doing some research on insurance company after this webinar, and they may be some good investment. And by the way, our usual disclaimer, or everything that we are sharing, please do your own due diligence. We are not really recommending that you buy any stocks. We are sharing it as case studies, and obviously we can see some track records of Warren already buying them. You can use them as references, but make sure you do your due diligence. So please type where you are from, which country you are from, and also one insurance company that you have dealt with before. And yes, and we were talking about Geico, one of Warren's first love. He bought this company because his teacher Benjamin Graham was involved in the company as the chairman, correct, Mary? He was I think he was the chairman at a point in time.
At one point, yes.
Right. And Geico was one of the first insurance company, and later I understand he also bought into General Re, correct?
Insurance. He basically right now about 30% of Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio is in insurance. He has approximately $65.5 billion invested in insurance companies. And those three main companies are Geico Corporation, General Reinsurance Corporation, and National Indemnity Company. But there are numerous subsidiaries under these parent corporations. And so there are about, oh my goodness, 67 different subsidiaries under each one of these, all of these three companies put together.
All right, 67. Wow.
Yeah.
And, and these are companies that are privatized. I understand they were listed initially, but Berkshire actually privatized them, bought the whole entire company.
Right. In I think, let's see, what year was it? I think it was about 1995. It was really, that's when Warren was buying his first stock in Geico when he was 20 years old, and he eventually owned about 41% of it. And in 1986, in the shareholder letter, he credited the chairman. Again, remember what I'm saying, guys. It's all about this management. And the chairman was a guy named Bill Snyder at the time. And what he really loved about Bill Snyder was that Bill knew how to keep operating costs low. And Warren thought that was one of the most important ingredients in the company's success was keeping those operating costs low. And then he began to purchase it again, but he paid a steep price for it in 1995.
There was a time where they actually changed the policy, if I'm not wrong.
Right. He purchased the rest of Geico for $2.3 billion in 1995. And then Tony Nicely, who was a clerk, he was a clerk at the Geico company, went on to be chairman.
Oh, so he started as a clerk and he went on to be the chairman.
Yeah.
So they actually pick. I think this is one portion that we talk about in terms of choosing a right management, someone that we find that can lead the company. And sometimes it's good to actually invest into companies where they grow their own leaders from the ground all the way up, where they know every single portions of the business, and it's quite an interesting phenomenon.
It really is. I mean, at one point when Warren first started learning about insurance companies from Benjamin Graham with Geico, he thought about even becoming what they call an actuary. And an actuary is a person at the insurance company that is the person that calculates the risk. So I want a life insurance policy, or I want my auto insurance. Their actuary says, oh, she's gotten in 5 accidents, or she's really sick. We're not good. So they determine risk. And I think that by becoming involved in the insurance companies and understanding the idea of risk management and risk investing, it really gave Warren an edge. And I think all of our investors should be looking for lowering the risk.
Oh, that's right. That's why we have the investment rule number 1, which is to never lose money. And I think the key essence of never losing money, which is we all know is impossible to not have there's always some risk in investment, but the whole idea is to minimize risk to the point where you can be like sleeping soundly at night knowing that your risk is actually covered. So again, we have quite a number of guys already online. Please ask any questions you have. Please share which country you are from. So far we have seen Jia Ping is from Singapore. Hi Ruth, Daniel, Stephen, Glenn, Chun Kit. Okay, so please ask any questions you have. And now we are diving into the insurance company. For those who just came in, just a quick summary. The reason why Warren, why Mary and myself, why we love the insurance company, because they have a huge amount of float which they can actually lend out, they can actually invest, and we are literally using the money as a float to without any risk. I mean, okay, I wouldn't say without any risk. We actually calculate the risk, and Mary was sharing that Warren at some point in time wanted to be an actuary, which is someone who calculates risk. So anyone who has been in the industry before, like the insurance industry, please share some insights as well. Or Douglas from Malaysia. Hi everyone. So
Hi.
yeah, so we, that we have everyone from all over the world. I know there are friends from even Africa and Germany that's joining us.
Oh,
Right. So, and I remember you mentioned one time, Mary, that insurance actually saved Berkshire Hathaway. So, how did that happen, and what actually happened?
well, in the early days of Berkshire Hathaway, as most people who study it know, Berkshire Hathaway was a textile mill. And in the early days, in the 40s, after the Great Depression, the textile mills were making clothes, and it was before the wars, and they were very big, and they made profits. But the textile mill is the classic example of it took a lot of machinery, things would break down. They would have to put profits back into the company in order to keep up with the machinery and so on. So it was a very difficult business, and it started losing money and really losing a lot of money. And had Warren not invested in Geico, in the insurance companies at that time, Berkshire Hathaway could have actually gone down the tubes. He could have lost all the money. But instead, he had the balance of Geico bringing in those profits, bringing in that money every month that he could list as a profit, that he could use to pay off either debt or to invest in other companies, which is what he did. And eventually he did close Berkshire Hathaway, the textile mill, because it just wasn't a good business.
Right. I think this is something very interesting and something that all of us can learn from. And before that, well, we have friends from Michelle from Australia. We have Wei An from Taiwan. So, okay, is Wei Kit from Affleck? Okay, so I do not know whether there's a question or there's a company, but I think one key thing is this. You see, even the great Warren Buffett makes mistakes in investments. He bought Berkshire Hathaway, and eventually it turned out to be not such a good investment. In fact, it went down because of the competition from, I think, other places, like even from China and from other cheaper countries. But what amazes me is this: Warren actually used Berkshire Hathaway as a holding company, and which this was one of his greatest mistakes. And he actually held on to the name, held on to the idea that he did make a mistake. He admitted the mistake, and it became his company's name, Berkshire Hathaway. I find that is an amazing trait.
Yes. And I mean, really, one of the other reasons at that time that it took Warren a long time to close down the textile mill was because it was in the Berkshires in upstate New York, in the beautiful mountains that they call the Berkshires. And he knew that if he closed that textile mill down, that basically the entire town would lose their jobs. And so he did it as slowly and as kindly as he could, but now he had to do it because he was losing money for his shareholders.
Wow, so it's not always about the money. I can see that like value investing is also about values, about the values of how we do business as well.
Right.
And right. I just want to ask one question. When we look at insurance company as an investment, I saw that Warren recently he bought travelers companies. I mean, he loves insurance. We know that he has been buying up. You're mentioning like 50 over. I mean, three main companies with 50 over subsidiaries, and now he bought travelers companies just last year in the third quarter he bought some, and in the fourth quarter he bought another 68% increase in stakes. So one question is this: do we look at insurance company differently as compared to other companies? Do we still look at the earnings, the ratio of how much debt they are owning and equities? Is it the same criteria, or do we look at it differently?
I think for a value investor, you always have to remember you have the same criteria no matter what company it is.
Right.
Once again, if we look at Travelers, and Sean, you sent me this information. This company goes back to 1864. The Hartford businessman and a local banker in the post office started organizing a company to introduce accident insurance. You know, in the olden days, before there were things like corporation, it really was a matter of fishing villages, little small fishing villages, probably more throughout Asia than anywhere, that would all pool a certain amount of money every year together in case of a storm that took out all of their boats, or a year that the fish didn't come, or some tragic thing happened. That's the beginnings of insurance, that it was a group of people that depended upon each other to protect themselves against catastrophic things.
Wow, I got no idea, man. So it was like a group of fishermen. They were thinking like, why don't we save up together as a whole entire group in case anything happens to any of us, that particular like comrade will have some money to tie over for his family. Oh, this is interesting.
Someone might die at sea and his family would be taken care of. One fisherman's didn't get any fish and another fisherman got a lot. So they really worked as a community-based operation to survive.
Wow. And again, I mean, like, I really, this is the first time I'm hearing this. So again, it is like to do with a lot of the value that we provide to the world. So interesting, okay. And you were talking about, so Travelers, they were one of them, and it had like 160 years of history. Wow.
Right.
So we also understand that for Travelers, I mean, like for any business, like you mentioned, we look at whether they have an advantage and economic mode. And we understand that Travelers is the top 3 writer of personal insurance. Yeah, so
Right.
and also for workers' compensation. I realize there's quite a number of types of insurance. So like yeah, there's commercial, there's workers, there's like accident insurance, and this whole entire industry. Is there anything that we need to look out for? Like in terms of, is there a preference for like which type of insurance is better?
Well, I think the only insurance company that I remember Warren, putting his hand to his head was the reinsurance, because they are almost the insurers of the insurance companies. So, for instance, if we have a big hurricane that takes out the whole coast of Florida and the whole Gulf of Mexico, and there's lots and big, massive insurance problems. That's what you don't want. You want a year when you hopefully have, the least amount of catastrophes as you can. But still, the profitability through excellent management and the conservative rate setting that all the Berkshire Hathaway insurance holdings, in other words, they're not going to decrease the premium prices to become competitive.
Right.
They created a new competitive advantage through an unlimited budget in advertising. I really think Warren takes credit for the gecko.
Right.
I think he was the one who thought of that little animal.
Oh, you mean the gecko lizard? Yep.
Yeah. So they began to spend unbelievable amounts on advertising, and so that's what gave them a competitive advantage. They didn't start to lower their premiums; they started to become more competitive. And right now, the product line of insurance companies, including, let's say, Travelers, they have Oh my gosh, motorcycle, RV, boat, homeowners, renters, co op, condos, mobile home insurance, personal umbrella, life insurance, flood insurance, overseas insurance. You can get insurance for anything. You can even get insurance if your child is going to college
Right.
and he, God forbid, or she has to take a semester off for some reason. You can get insurance for that, so they don't have to pay that full month. Here in Los Angeles, you can get insurance if you buy a very expensive concert ticket.
Oh, okay. Actually, I heard of this story where I do not know whether is it a true story about this gentleman who bought a set of very expensive tobacco and he insured his tobacco. So and the funny thing is inside the insurance there was a portion covering fire insurance. And what he did was he just lit up his tobacco and smoked them. And after that he went to the insurance company and he wanted to claim for the fire insurance. He said that my property, which I bought insurance for, is now burned out. I mean, because he smoked the tobacco, right? And the court actually awarded him the meaning to say they told the insurance company to pay him. And the funny thing is, weeks later, right, that particular insurance company, they sued that gentleman for arson. Like, hey, how can you burn your own property? And they got the money back. So you're right, man. It's like anything can be insured.
Yes, anything. Even a piano player, wonderful. I know a woman who's a friend of my son's. She's a world-class pianist. She has her hands insured in case, God forbid, she should break her fingers or something. It's her career. And
Yep.
Travelers is an interesting insurance company because they're really known as a good corporate citizen. They're really known to support communities, and they've even dedicated to building playgrounds in the cities for more than 4,600 kids. This is what you sent to me on some of the
Right. I got it.
Yeah. That you said.
I think the key thing is because what they do is it is a form of corporate social responsibility, and this is one way of like making their name known and advertising as well. And let's look at some of the figures of travelers. We can see that the earnings per share, I mean, they fluctuate here and there, especially when there were like national, like those disaster that happens in 2011. But generally, overall, it's increasing steadily. I mean, it goes up and down, but you can see an upward trend generally. And this is one key factor of many insurance companies. They like what you mentioned, it is not a commodity type of business. They don't have to reduce their premiums. They charge higher premiums each time and they spend the money to advertise.
Right.
And
they reduce their risk.
Right. And the beautiful thing is we can see the free cash flow positive over the past 10 years. And like even as the profits fluctuate slightly, the free cash flow very, very stable.
Yes.
And the return on equity more than 10% most of the time. I realize that insurance company, I guess that they do need equity, but pretty efficient.
That's right. And that's again where when Warren is looking at management, what is management doing? How efficient are they being? As I said before, with Geico, it was the fact that Bill Snyder could keep their overhead costs low and steady.
And I think the two indicators that you always mention, how can we really, this is a question a lot of people ask, like, how do we know that the management is doing well? How do we know that they are responsible? I think the return on equity shows their efficiency, and also net margin will tell us whether have they really been like keeping the cost low as compared to the revenue they are making. These two are very important indicators.
I know you're famous for your net margin.
Right. The net margin, I this is very important. And we were talking about the risk of the insurance, when we were sending you some of the information over, you corrected us saying that in terms of authority risk or in terms of the government political influence over insurance company, you were saying that initially we were thinking that perhaps it will be highly regulated, but you were saying that for travelers, the risk is actually not as high. Can you explain a bit about that? Why is it that you feel that it's not a very high risk in terms of like government actually wanting to regulate these types of insurance?
Right. It was amazing to me when I first found out this, because usually, like any big financial institution, like the SEC, like the FEC for the stations and so on, they always have someone looking over their shoulders. But the authority risk, the government, which I'm going to assume is the federal government.
That's right.
They don't regulate the types of insurance, let's say, that travelers sells. The states regulate the rates and the solvency, and in a reactive manner. So it'll never surprise travelers with like a big change all of a sudden, And the other thing is, so it's regulated state by state, which is really, interesting to me.
But so far, you have not seen any like states regulating insurance. Like so far, based on your years of experience, they are not really affected by any like change in government policies.
Exactly. You would think that there was a government, authority that oversaw all of the different various insurance companies, but that's not true. It's regulated by states. It's regulated by what the states, how the solvency is. And so it reacts with the company.
I got it.
Also,
yeah.
Insurance policies are not subject to legislation, which is really interesting because an independent agency, it's called the National Agency of Insurance, something, NAIC, they suggest policy language, but the policy language is regulated when the individual state insurance commissioner decides to do something should be changed, or because something should be abolished because maybe they got too many people complaining about it. That isn't very often. But so it's really, you have to understand that these insurance companies are really independently regulated, and the policies can vary from state to state.
Right. So in your opinion, Mary, because we are looking through all the different types of possible risks, so we know that there isn't any legislation list. Even science and technology, in terms of that, we do not foresee any huge risk yet. There's no key people risk. So what is the main risk of insurance company? I mean, every businesses, there's got to be some risk. So what is the worst case scenario that you can foresee for like investing into a company like Travelers or any insurance company for the matter?
It's really got a very low risk. I mean,
except for natural disasters.
Natural disasters are one. A lot of people, I mean, that is probably the biggest one. I mean, we've just had, unfortunately, some
hurricanes
that just came through and literally wiped out towns. And so that you have to start from scratch.
But again, you also mentioned that because these companies, they are reinsured by reinsurance company. So again,
Right.
They minimize their risk in that aspect.
They're always minimizing their risk. I definitely put Travelers into what our investment watch list would
Right.
be, and see how to beat Warren at his own price.
Right. So let's take a look at the price. We have assessed Travelers now to be quite a strong a company. I mean, amongst all the other companies that he sold. I mean, he usually I don't know, man. Maybe as we buy Travelers, one day Berkshire will buy out Travelers and privatize it. So let's take a look at the price that he has entered Travelers at. We can see that in the third quarter last year, TRV, the Travelers company, he bought them on an average price of $129, and he bought them up to even 134. So current price is 131. We can see that, but we can see that from even Berkshire, they are willing to pay even up to 134. So now it's 131. It may be a good opportunity to pick a bit of it. It is not super cheap as compared to what Berkshire had bought. And recently, they added more in the fourth quarter of last year. They bought it from 112 to 131, and average price 124, and right now it's 131. So it is not too bad a valuation. The P ratio is below 15, and maybe this is something that you're right. I'll be putting it on my watch list. I'll be collecting bit by bit, and interesting company, right?
Yeah, definitely interesting company. It's hard to find, actually.
Even your dog is agreeing to that.
Yeah, the dogs are both going, yes, buy.
Oh, is that how you make your investment decisions? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, buy, sell.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a decent. It's rare that you can find an insurance company at such a decent rate.
Right.
And knowing that you're going to hold it over a long period of time, looking at the management of the company. I mean, the fact that Warren's bought it, this was as of last year, almost 2 years ago, in 2017, and then again at the end of the fourth quarter, as you said. But it's still, I think it's just a good stock to watch.
That's
Let's see what happens. Maybe we're going to have the market react to something completely crazy that can happen only here with Donald Trump as our president.
Oh, that's one of the main risks now, correct? Right. So now there are some questions from our watchers. So maybe I'll just look through some of them. Okay. I think this is a very interesting question, not really related to the insurance company, but I think what you mentioned, when we buy a company, we are collecting them and holding them for the long term. So Ling Yu, is it Elsa? Okay, so she mentioned that she bought this business called Siri, which Warren bought as well, and because I believe value investing and Buffett also have this stock, until today I'm still bleeding. What can I do? So I put out the information of Siri, and I think there's a very interesting lesson. Let me just read out certain very key points about this company called Siri, which I think Warren is still holding. I'm not too sure, but I do not know. You bought it from last year, July to December. So if you bought it last year from July to December, you would have bought it when the earnings per share was about 0.14. And this year, you can see that the revenue has increased from 5.4 billion to 5.7 billion. Okay, 5.4 to 5.7 billion. And the net income, if you take a look at the net income, they have increased from 600 million to 1.1 billion. And translated this to earnings per share, it is from 0.14 to 0.26. So I would like to ask this question to our Elsa, I think. So how do you say that you are bleeding? Because the company that you are holding, is actually making more money. And I'm guessing this, and Mary, please correct me. Because the whole idea is a lot of investors, after they bought a certain stock, they look at the stock price, and if the stock price goes down, they feel that, oh no, I'm losing money. And I noticed from Berkshire Hathaway's letters, Warren doesn't look at stock prices. He look at the performance of the businesses. And in fact, even in 2008 and 2009, when the stock prices plunged, he mentioned that the book value of his whole entire portfolio increased. The total earnings of his whole entire portfolio increased. So as a value investor, is that the way that we look at stocks? Meaning to say we forget about the stock price, but we focus on the business performance. Is that how Warren does it?
That's exactly how we should all do it. And that's how he does it. And it's hard to emotionally accept that. And that's why Warren always says, release yourself from emotion. If she said she's bleeding and actually the company is making more money than it did last year,
Right.
this should be a good sign, But that's the secret essence behind what are really common sense principles, that you really have to look at the business. As
Right.
you just suggested, in 2008, Berkshire's, they went up. Their book value actually increased because those solid companies that they had going for them and they invested in just weren't going away. They weren't, it wasn't Facebook, it wasn't Bitcoin.
Right. That's right. So focus back on the businesses. Okay, and so I hope that helps you. I know it's not easy. For me, when I see my stock price going down, I have to go and reread all the books and I have to sometimes I'll give Mary a call and say, Mary, what's happening to this stock? And she'll remind me again, focus back on the businesses, not on the stock price. And this is the way to really having a very profitable portfolio. We are not lying to ourselves. We are not like trying to avoid the reality. But the reality is the stock market is crazy. They fluctuate and we have to focus back on the business. So I one another question is this. Okay, from Chunkit, very interesting question. What is the main reason of U.S. insurance company being able to do and sustain well from the past? Okay, but compared to Asia, there's a big difference in terms of market cap. Okay, market cap, I think you're talking about in terms of the stock price multiplied by the number of stocks. But this is interesting. Maybe I paraphrase the question. The question that probably you're asking is the future of insurance companies. Are they going to be is it going to be a growing industry? Will there be more like demand? Will there be higher revenue 10 years later as compared to today? So what do you think, Mary? Will the insurance industry, will the insurance companies be making more money 10 years later as compared to today?
I think you have to ask yourself this question. If you believe Warren Buffett is one of the greatest investors, what makes insurance so attractive to Warren that he's still buying it? And you need to really have a deep understanding of insurance principles and the history of insurance and the insurance industries. And it will reveal to you and explain each and every competitive advantage of the insurance industries, as well as some advantages held by very specific operations, so you can make some wise investment decisions yourself. Because the reality is, if you don't understand insurance, you're never going to achieve the maximum investment returns. So look at the history of what insurance really is, what its principles are, and look at what gives it that competitive advantage. Is it the fact that they don't insure people who have bad driving records? Or is it the fact that they only sold it to people in the beginning who were government employees, so they had a built-in audience? But even under the three insurance companies that Warren owns, they insure so many different kinds of things. There's I can't even go down the list. I mean, there's specialty insurance, Berkshire Hathaway specialty insurance in Australia. There's Berkshire Hathaway specialty insurance in Asia, in the Middle East. They have 26 locations around the world.
Around the world?
It's Berkshire Hathaway Specialty Insurance Company.
Right.
It's also known as Stonewall Insurance Company. But they have it in Ireland, in Canada, in Germany. And I just heard last year that one of the biggest moves has been into India. that Warren is looking at, going in and offering insurance. I think he already has in India. The three wealthiest men in the world, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, and I think Bill Gates, are talking about creating their own insurance company.
Right.
Now, now ask yourself that question again. Do you think insurance is going to be good in the future? If those three guys think it is, I think so too.
That's right. Interesting portion is like I heard a lot of companies like even Apple, Samsung, or even Alibaba. They try to go into the banking industry where they want to do payment gateways, but nothing heard about them wanting to do insurance. I guess it is not so easy to actually create insurance. There's a certain advantage, there's a certain barriers to entry. And I think insurance is going to be here to stay for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And I guess this is pretty insightful. And one last portion is not everybody can understand the insurance industry. And I understand from yourself that you spend years actually studying the insurance industry, and you are going to come out with a new book on that soon.
Yes, it's taken my girlfriend Kathleen DeFever, who's an insurance attorney. It's taken us. We've been working for 5 years, just trying to get a hold of the hugeness of what insurance, the advantages are, and all of the different kinds of insurance that Warren owns, and government employees insurance. It's still there. Geico, General Re, what does it? It has companies all over the world, in Tokyo, in Germany, in Latvia, in Denmark, in Spain. It's reinsuring all kinds of companies that may have some kind of need if something goes wrong.
Right.
So there, when I'm looking at this list that I have with Kathleen that we made, it's like, my God, they're getting paid from every country in the world.
That's right. So I guess that answers the question, because just now there was an answer by Chun. There was a question by Chun Kit asking why is there such a big difference for the U.S. insurance company. Number one, they provide insurance all over the world. There's growth potential internationally. I guess some of the Asian companies are doing that as well, but as compared to U.S. insurance company, there has more history, there's more advanced, they are breaking through faster, and with the name Warren Buffett behind it, it is much easier to break into any country. The second question that some of you guys are asking is, does Warren prefer life or non-life insurance companies? And I think the answer has been answered. Basically, all sorts of insurance company. In fact, Berkshire Hathaway, they have like 3 main insurance company that's privatized, 2 more that they are buying, 50 over subsidiaries, insuring every single thing. I mean, every single thing that you can think of. And this is okay. Now the third, I don't think this is a question. This is a comment. The magnitude of natural disaster. We mentioned that just now. This is something. The greatest risk is the natural disaster risk. We cannot control that. I mean, I cannot control that. I don't know any of you guys. And we do have companies that's doing reinsurance, but however, during these times, the insurance companies will get affected somehow. But you can see that like a company like Travelers, they hold a lot of cash. So the worst case scenario, you can see for the past 10 over years, there wasn't almost any period in time they actually lost money. Sometimes it will dip, but generally they are well covered. And I guess these are the key questions. And overall, one more thing is, oh yeah, so Mary, you have not told us when will this book of yours be out? This insurance company book. I mean, this book about insurance.
Sean, yours and my book is coming out first.
Oh, yes, that's right. So we are gonna have a book soon. You guys can watch out for it. And this book will be coming out, I think this year, correct?
Yes.
And in there we will also be sharing about many other ways of investing. So, okay, let's.
Very simple steps. Really, I love this book that Sean and I have written because it gives us 7 simple steps to investing like Warren Buffett can. and it will just take you through it. And then the next book will be a little bit deeper about insurance, and you can read that. That's going to be a thicker book. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that I want to say to everybody all over the world, and first of all, thank everyone for your questions and writing in. I want to say that we all have a responsibility to our environment. And if we don't want the catastrophes, and if we own insurance companies, we don't want our investments to go down. But
Right.
we all have to push our governments to be more environmentally sound. It's more now than ever. We can do it, but it will be very difficult. So that's a great thing to
Yes.
end for me on. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Mary. I want to say that I am very guilty of that. I don't think, especially in Singapore, I think our efforts of like keeping the environment more environmental friendly is picking up, but it is way behind. So all the friends out there, I hope that you have learned a lot this session. But keep the questions coming in. We will continue to answer them. Please continue to ask questions because we want to continue to learn. And remember, do our part for the environment so that there will be less natural disaster. There will be, I mean, not just because we want to make a profit. I mean, we want to make a profit from our investments, but same thing for the next generation. And this is what investing is about, correct? This is about having long-term values in terms of the company we keep as and at the same time providing to the world the kind of value that we want to provide. So
It
yep,
goes back, Sean, it goes back to the little fishing village who had the mentality of caring for one another
right.
in a catastrophe. And that's how we have to believe as a community worldwide. We have to take care of our environment, our universe, and we can all be wealthier and healthier. There
Right.
won't be as many kids with asthma,
That's right. That's right. So thank you so much for being on the call today, Mary, and thanks everybody. I still see a lot of questions. We will be answering them. Keep the question coming in, okay? And we will be answering them on Facebook, and we'll see you guys next month. And next month in April, the cool thing is Mary will be in Asia, right?
I can't wait. Yes. And keep signing up. We love all the signups on Buffett Online School. I'm
Yes.
so proud. And Sean and the whole team is doing such a great job. And thank you all for writing in. Please keep your questions coming. We'll answer them.
Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, and thanks, Mary. We will be seeing you guys around, and next month you'll be live. So can't wait for that to happen. All right.
Live from wherever I am in Asia.
And we'll see you. Okay, goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.